Today, we're going to go on this incredible journey through time to trace the visual history of data, how we show information. And it's a story that, believe it or not, starts way back on cave walls and ends up, well, right here on your screen.
So, the big question we're tackling is this: how in the world did we get from super early symbols to the complex, interactive dashboards we all use today? It's a much bigger and way more interesting leap than you'd think, packed with some seriously brilliant people and game changing ideas. All right, let's get into it.
So, we're going to break this whole story down into four big eras. First up, how we literally invented the basic language of charts. Then we'll look at how those charts became these really powerful tools for persuasion. After that, the 20th century obsession with making things super simple and clear. And finally, we'll get to the digital explosion that put all this power right into our hands. Okay, let's kick things off at the very beginning. The need to see information isn't new. I mean, think about the earliest maps. But the rules for showing data in a systematic way, the actual grammar of charts and graphs, that had to be invented completely from scratch. The people on this slide, they pretty much wrote the book on data visualization. In 1765, you've got Joseph Priestley, who created one of the very first timeline charts, a kind of prototype for how we visualize history even now. But the real giant of this era, the one you absolutely have to know, is William Playfair. In the late 1700s, this guy single-handedly invented the line chart, the bar chart, and the pie chart. I mean, that's the foundational vocabulary we still use every single day. And this quote right here was his whole philosophy. Playfair had this brilliant realization. Staring at a huge, dense table of numbers is slow, it's confusing, it's just plain hard. But our eyes are fantastic at comparing shapes and sizes in an instant. He solved the problem by translating those boring numbers into simple, intuitive shapes, letting the data finally speak to the eyes. All right, moving into the 19th century, these new tools start to evolve. This is the moment when data visualization becomes more than just analysis. It becomes a weapon for social reform, a tool for telling these powerful, persuasive stories that could and did actually change the world. And the heroes of this era, they used data to literally save lives. You have John Snow, who used a simple dot map to fact-check the popular theory about how cholera spread. In the process, he stopped a deadly outbreak in London. Then there's Florence Nightingale, who used her stunning rose diagram to show Parliament that way more soldiers were dying from disease in hospitals than on the battlefield. And then there's Charles Maynard, who created a graphic so brilliant, people still study it today. So, to really get Maynard's genius, think about this number: 422,000. That's the size of Napoleon's massive army when it marched into Russia in 1812, a force that seemed absolutely invincible. And this, 10,000. That's the number of soldiers who made it back. Maynard's incredible graphic showed the army's size, its location, the direction it was going, and the brutally cold temperatures, all in a single image. It wasn't just a chart, it was a devastating story of human loss. Now, as we enter the 20th century, the whole vibe shifts. This modernist spirit takes hold. And with it comes this new focus on minimalism, on universal understanding, and on systematic design. The goal wasn't just persuasion anymore. It was about achieving absolute clarity. And this slide shows two amazing paths people took to find that clarity. On one side, you've got Otto Neurath's isotype system. It used these simple little icons to explain really complex social statistics to everyone, even if they couldn't read well. And on the other, you have Harry Beck's London Underground map, which famously threw out geographic accuracy to create a clean, easy-to-read diagram. Beck's method was just revolutionary. It was so simple. He basically turned a messy, confusing map into this beautiful, elegant circuit diagram just by following these rules. This thing became the prototype for pretty much every transit map on the planet, and it proved that sometimes the most useful visual isn't the most accurate one, it's the clearest one. Well, this whole quest for clarity eventually found its greatest champion, a statistician named Edward Tufte, and he gave a name to the enemy of clear data visualization, chart junk. You know what I'm talking about, all those unnecessary 3D effects, weird textures, and decorative fluff that just gets in the way of the actual information. Tufte's entire philosophy, his whole worldview, can be boiled down to this one powerful idea. For him, every single drop of ink you put on a page has to have a reason for being there. And that reason should be to show the data, period. He even came up with a concept for this, called the data-ink ratio. So a great chart has a high ratio. Almost all the ink is dedicated to the data. It's clean, it's efficient. But a bad chart, that has a low ratio. Most of the ink is just chart junk that distracts you and hides the meaning. It's such a simple but powerful way to think about effective design. And all of that brings us to our final era, the digital explosion. The personal computer and the internet, they didn't just change the tools we use, they completely transformed who could create these graphics and how we all share them. It's what led to the world we live in right now.
And the pace of change was just wild. VisiCalc let business people make their own charts for the first time. The Mac and its graphical interface made design accessible to everybody. And then this wave of pro software, PageMaker, Illustrator, Photoshop, put a full-on digital design studio on everyone's desk.
This all led to the great infographic boom back in the 2010s, when they were all over social media. But there was a catch. As this chart shows, one study found that over half of the most popular online infographics contained no real data at all. Yeah, the word infographic just started to mean any long, pretty picture with icons, where style often completely steamrolled substance. Now, today, that democratization is totally complete. We've got super easy template tools like Canva for marketers, we've got powerful interactive dashboards like Tableau for analysts, and we have sophisticated coding libraries like D3.js for data journalists who want to build custom visuals for the web. The tools are everywhere. So when you just step back and look at the whole story, the arc is just mind-blowing. We've gone from meticulously hand-engraving charts onto copper plates to using AI-powered tools that can literally suggest designs and layouts for us. And that leaves us with one last and really crucial question for the future. The tools have made it unbelievably easy to make something that looks authoritative, that looks like a real data graphic. But as we've seen, looks can be very deceiving. So the challenge for all of us now, as creators and as consumers, is to make sure that what we're looking at isn't just beautiful, but that it's also true.